Was the bluelock anime always bad? Well, you see, it's complicated, because bluelock's anime adaptation didn't always have the negative reception that it has nowadays. With season 1, it was not only praised for the captivating story, themes and characters, but also for being very well animated. However, with season 2, it was seen as a major step down, to the point where bluelock's anime became infamously known as PNG lock or frame lock, with memes everywhere comparing it to a literal PowerPoint presentation. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. There were episodes filled with overused CG animation and literal PNGs sliding across the screen, being disguised as animation. But despite all of that, 8-Bit Studio, the ones behind bluelock's anime, was still somehow able to give us all these very well animated scenes, along with this top tier season finale for season 2, which mind you wasn't just 1 but 2 episodes that aired on the same day. This was not only a miracle, nor was it them saving the budget like so many people love to claim, but instead it was a clear showing that bluelock's anime adaptation has a major consistency problem. And once I started paying more attention to that inconsistency upon rewatching the entire anime, I realized that this season's problems didn't just start here, but instead with season 1. So in this video, we're gonna go through bluelock's anime, its production history, where the cracks first started showing, and ultimately answer the question of this video: was the bluelock anime really that bad? So now, without any further ado guys, let's get right into it. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the criticism that every episode looked like a slideshow in season 2, except for the last 2 episodes, is quite a common one that people have. However, after my rewatch and analysis of each episode, I would argue that this criticism only applies to a few episodes of this season, those being episodes 2, 3 and 4, which are not only the worst episodes in the season because of the minimal amount of animation, PNGs moving across the screen and constant overuse of still images, but also due to other issues I noticed too, like the art quality in some scenes looking very off at times, the heavy reliance on low quality CGI animation, especially for movements that involved both the feet and the ball, but also the little bits of animated scenes that we do have in these episodes that looked very choppy and just downright jarring due to how unpolished they were. This right here is not the quality standard of every episode in season 2. However, a lot of the issues that I mentioned are still present throughout the rest of the season, and even in the last 2 episodes to a much lesser degree. We do still have moments that do look and feel like PowerPoint presentations here and there for sure. I am not going to deny that, but this becomes less frequent once we enter the U20 match, where we see the production value go from terrible to just being okay at best, and then everything improves again once the second half begins. This is where we see the production value of each episode actually being very good, as we start to see better compositing for the visuals, better art direction, more fluid and well animated cuts, less CG animation, less choppy looking animation, way less use of still frames compared to before, and most importantly, no more PNGs being shamelessly dragged across the screen. And then somehow, some way, 8-Bit managed to take the production value to a whole nother level with its last 2 episodes, but make no mistake, because these episodes weren't perfect either, as the use of low quality CGI and still frames can still be seen in them, especially if you look hard enough, but the flaws they have are so minimal to the point where it can still be argued that episode 13 is amazing and episode 14 is a complete masterpiece. So based on all this, there was a clear improvement in the production quality as season 2 continued airing throughout late 2024, not counting episodes 1, 5, 6 and 9, which are all very good episodes that were well animated, but also ones that didn't need a lot of time and resources, as these episodes were more so focused on progressing the story through character dynamics and major revelations like the introduction of bluelock's top players at the time and what happened in Rin and Sai's backstory. Does that make them any less important? Absolutely not, and I'm glad that these episodes were done justice. But even with all of that being said, despite the positives that I have just highlighted for the entire season, they are still not enough to outweigh the flaws of this season. But funnily enough, while season 2 got better over time during its production, the opposite happened with its prequel, which was season 1, and I'm going to explain why. Now, earlier in the video I mentioned how bluelock's anime adaptation has a major consistency problem that started with season 1, and that is somewhat true. But when I say this, I am more so referring to bluelock's second core, specifically after episode 12, because episodes 1 to 12 in season 1 are nearly perfect. There are no issues with the animation or art quality at all, and while yes, there is CG, the use of it is so minimal that sometimes you forget that it's even in the show. So yeah, there are next to no flaws in core 1, however that sadly cannot be said for core 2, where during my rewatch I started to notice a lot of issues with the art and animation, issues that later became more prominent in season 2. A great example of this is episode 13, where we do see great animation here and there in the match, but there are way more still frames with barely any movement compared to previous episodes. The triangle formation play here is a great example of this. It basically has sound effects with a camera that is moving, but it's still just a still image the entire time. I'll just let the scene play for itself and you'll know what I mean.
By doing it that way, we can control the midfield!
So as you've just seen, it's just trying to give the illusion of animation and movement without there actually being any, which is just jarring to look at. Also, the way they animated Nagi kicking the ball here was just awful. I mean, just look at this. It just teleports, there's no actual movement to where it's meant to go. But this isn't the only example that highlights a lot of the issues seen in core 2 either. As it continues on, we can start to see the art direction take a huge tank in quality, as the characters will quite often look very off-model. We'll have moments like this with Chigiri and Barrow, where they're saying something but for some reason their mouths are not moving. The scenes are just still frames for no good reason. Speaking of still frames, there are a lot more of them during the matches in core 2, but unlike season 2, the animation team went out of their way to disguise them and not make them stand out by using good camera effects. Besides core 1 being nearly perfect production wise, this is also one of the reasons why the average viewer did not notice the issues in core 2, because the animators for season 1, unlike season 2, actually did a good job of hiding the flaws, or at the very least made them less noticeable. So the only viewers who'd actually go out of their way to notice these flaws would usually be those who already read the manga, as they would naturally compare it with the anime to see if the latter is doing the source material justice. This is something that I learned when core 2 was coming out at the time, because back when core 2 was airing, I too was just like the average viewer who was just really enjoying it while barely noticing any of its flaws, just like the many reactors and other anime fans online that was watching the show as well. However, when I started to see opinions on the bluelock subreddit on newer episodes, the tone was completely different. Instead of praise and hype, episodes in core 2 were either getting heavily criticized or slandered, not just for poor production value but also for certain moments not being done justice. Now, I'll be honest, when I first watched core 2, the flaws of early episodes didn't really stick out to me, so I thought a lot of the slander was uncalled for and basically was just bluelock manga readers at the time being very ungrateful. But oh boy, was I dead wrong, because the more of core 2 that came out, the more harder it was for me to ignore the flaws and overall downgrade in quality that I noticed with each new episode, especially after they failed to do Barrow's awakening justice in episode 18, and sadly it just got worse from there for the rest of the season in terms of its production value. And fast forward to this this year, and after having rewatched season 1, my sentiment regarding Core 2 has not changed at all. In fact, in case it wasn't obvious, it's a lot more negative, especially after realizing that a lot of the issues that we see in this core are what led to season 2 being the inevitable disaster and laughingstock that it came to be. But it's not just season 1, episode Nagi also had issues as well. For what was supposed to be an anime movie, it is very guilty of being just as flawed as seasons 1 and 2, as it has many scenes of still frames during moments where characters are supposed to be animated and not just moving across the screen. And even when there is animation, sometimes it's very good and fluid, but other times it is very unpolished, which for an anime movie is just unacceptable. Also, the inconsistent art direction and uses of low quality CG just don't help either. Like, seriously, as someone who's been watching anime movies in cinemas since 2018, Blue Lock episode Nagi is the first time that I have ever watched an anime movie and thought to myself, this does not belong on a big cinema screen at all. And it sucks to say that because the episode Nagi manga is very good, but they should have just adapted it into an OVA after making and releasing season 2 first, but instead 8-Bit wanted to cash in on the anime movie hype train by making a cash grab move that would eventually lead to one of the biggest reasons for why season 2 suffered. Now, despite what I have said, season 2 suffering wasn't just due to 8-Bit stretching their animators too thin, it was also because they had them on aggressively tight schedules and near impossible deadlines to meet. Not just for season 2 but also season 1 and the Nagi movie, and all of this isn't just enforced by 8-Bit but also the production committee as a whole. You see, based on an interview that was done with one of the animators for season 2, which I'll have a link to in the description, by the way, the production issues for Blue Lock were not just because of 8-Bit or a lack of budget, but rather a combination of systemic industry factors. The key contributors that this included were the constraints enforced by the production committee, who have multiple parties involved, including Bandai Namco and the publisher of the manga, which is Kodansha, who own the rights to the Blue Lock manga and IP. So not only do they fund the anime, but they also hold significant power over deadlines and release schedules for its episodes. The reason why is because they prioritize financial returns, often setting aggressive timelines that do not allow sufficient time for high quality production. This then results in a negative ripple effect where the team cannot use their animation resources to the best of their ability, forcing them to make difficult compromises and take shortcuts. Also, if you've read the manga for Blue Lock, or at the very least seen some of its best panels, then it should be no secret to you that this series features character designs with very high detail and shading. It ain't no JoJo's, but it still requires more time and fully utilized resources to animate properly compared to simpler styles seen in other manga. The animator in the interview, who is called Martin, by the way, also stressed that he is not blaming the studio or director, as they too often face immense pressure to make the best decisions possible under the constrained conditions the animators are forced to work under, which is fair enough. However, if Kodansha, 8-Bit and the rest of the production committee hope to see Blue Lock continue succeeding and potentially grow even further as an IP, then they need to start prioritizing the quality of its anime adaptations and give the animation teams the proper time that they need to create future seasons to the high standard of quality. A consistent high standard of quality that should be seen in every episode from start to finish. I think I speak for nearly every Blue Lock fan when I say this. We are not asking for Demon Slayer or Jujutsu Kaisen levels of movie quality animation. For every every episode or season. Trust me, I would love to see that, but let's be realistic, that will never happen or be possible in today's economy. The average anime season does not look like this, but also it doesn't need to as well. The consistent quality of season 1, core 1 to be more specific, is the golden standard I think every new season of Blue Lock should aspire to aim for moving forward. While the movie quality stuff like what we got in episode 14 of season 2 should either be saved for the best moments of the story or just for season finales only, and personally that's all I wanted season 2 to be, an amazing animated season that did the U20 arc justice, but sadly it wasn't. Instead it was just an inconsistent mess, just like the Nagi movie and season 1. As a fan of this series, it sucks to say all of this because when you just look at the positives of the Blue Lock anime, especially as a manga reader, like when you just look at some of the greatest moments that were done justice, the way they improved and enhanced certain parts of the story by making changes or adding in filler when it was appropriate to do so, you can see the adaptation that its animators wanted it to be. Despite the horrible conditions that they were forced to work under, the heart and soul that the animation team have tried to put into this project is undeniable. Now, I'm not going to say that every decision that they have made for the adaptation has been perfect. There are definitely some changes that are worthy of criticism, like them cutting out Shido's original introduction and his match with Kunigami, along with the fact that they misrepresented Loki's character, but thankfully these kind of issues are rare and not the norm when it comes to this adaptation, which overall is still very faithful to the story. The major problem lies with its production value, which is greatly affected by a greedy and money-hungry production committee full of businessmen that, while understandably are trying to make a profit, are at the same time failing to realize that the art that is making them money in the first place is not going to be able to continue doing so if its anime adaptation continues to fail to adhere to a standard that it was greatly known for with the first half of its first season. Now, to get back to the original question of this video, was the Blue Lock anime really that bad? Honestly, no. You could do so much worse, and even as an adaptation I wouldn't call it bad, but it's definitely not good either. It is very subpar and the series deserves way better than this, but for what it is on its own merit, as in not comparing it to the manga, it is decent but definitely not great, and I just pray that season 3 does not end up becoming another inconsistent mess, but we'll just have to wait and see. But what do you guys think? Do you think the Blue Lock anime so far has been bad or not? How do you think it holds up so far as an adaptation? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and found it to be very informative, then please do be sure to leave a like and also subscribe and hit that notification bell for more future Blue Lock content. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This is your boy MAMZYY signing out. Take care and peace.